Hi, everybody. I'm Chris.
I'm Matt.
And for those of you who don't know, this is our third attempt to record this.
This is the one.
This
This
is
is
the
it.
one. I believe in us. You'd think we're, just two guys throwing this shit together. But, and this week we are recording Dungeon Keeper. We're going to talk a little bit about that and sort of its history and what we thought of playing it this month. I'm going to jump right into the intro because we both love it, and we're going to just sort of let this play in the background for a second. Oh, and the most important part, sound on this.
Yeah, you're gonna want to hear this awesome guitar riff in this intro. It's so good.
And maybe if you can find a version somewhere to watch sometime that's not the size of like.
It's fine. You'll get the idea. Who cares? Terrific.
It is. So here's my question: do you think the Bile Demon's upset that the Horn Reaper came in and just stole his thunder at the end there?
I would be. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I totally like. I'm gonna do this, and then this asshole comes and just kills the guy for me.
It's great because you could never get away with making an intro like that in this day and age. Like
No.
every intro today has to be like in the game engine.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
just couldn't do it, but
No.
it's so good. It's fun.
Yeah. No, it's an
Even though
absolute.
the models suck and whatever.
Well, I would love someone to remake that shot for shot with new models, but don't touch the music. Leave the music alone.
No, and you need the two things. You need the troll giving the dude the finger,
Yep.
and that skull that goes. Dut, 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 dut.
You do. I love that the
That's
skull is to
perfect.
the rhythm of the song. It's
Oh yeah, it's such a good intro.
no, it's and a brave choice going metal.
Yeah, I
Uh,
appreciate that.
I do too. Too many games would have tried to renaissance this up, and they didn't. They went metal. They went with exactly what the theme is, and I think we can say that about the entire game is they know what their theme is and they nail it every step along the way.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely, and it adds so much to the game. Like usually, well, not usually, but sometimes like those things feel tacked on. Like, oh, you're the bad guy, blah blah blah. But in this game, it's like perfect because the writing, everything it makes you feel actual disdain for the heroes and the other creepers. It's just really well done. It adds a ton to the game.
they don't
It's good.
overham it. They really hit the note and nail it consistently. Even in the second game, which I didn't think was good, they still didn't overplay that, almost cheesy cartoony villain.
Yeah.
but it feels right. It feels really well executed.
And this is a Blizzard Looking Glass game by
EA.
Peter Molyneux. I hope I'm saying his name right.
Yeah.
And he went on to do a lot of the same kind of stuff with like Black and White and some of his other games. I mean, even Populous, one of his earlier games, was like the same kind of idea where you're just killing innocent people. Well, Populous was great.
I was going to say, we should do Populous sometime, because one of the things I think is interesting about Populous is that wasn't the game he intended to make.
Oh, really?
He was building an engine, and that was a level editor, and he found he was having more fun with the level editor than the game. So he just spun that off. And yeah, for everybody who knows Peter Molyneux, currently he's a guy who can't keep his mouth shut to the press. He gets overhyped about his games, and this is part of why. When he's left alone and has some good ideas and given constraints, not room to create, but actual, you've got to build in this box, he does a really fantastic job. But too often,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but too often he got worshipped as a god of game design, and it went to his head.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of the sad part there. Like a lot of guys from this era.
Yeah.
And I think, going way off topic here, I think that's why Brian Fargo is doing such a good job now. Because he's coming out of this era of really great creative games, and that's where he cut his teeth. But no one ever thinks of Fargo as one of these visionaries of game design.
Yeah, right.
So, I don't know. That's way off topic. What were you going to say when I kept rambling on there?
I was going to talk about what a good run Blizzard and Looking Glass had.
Bullfrog.
Or Bullfrog, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They did Magic Carpet, Populous, the theme park games, Syndicate. There were a bunch of really good games that they came out with.
Theme Hospital's another one that everybody loved. Now I'm going to look that up. Keep going on that, because I need to look up what else they did.
Oh, those are the only ones I remember, so I'm out of ideas. Let's talk about what's going on here in your game. Okay. So what you're doing is just building rooms and managing the layout of a dungeon. That building there in the top of the screen is like where the monsters come through, and in the manual it tells you like if you want to attract certain monsters, you need certain rooms of a certain size. So that's really like the meat of the design part of this game is
that's
designing.
The game. Is
designing a dungeon to get the right creatures.
And then you don't even really, like, okay, in this case I've picked them up and I can drop them on things, and they know pretty well what to do. And I know you'll bring up the AI in a second here about how good it is with the imps, but same with the creatures. You're not actually, unlike other strategy games where you're moving the troops, very little actual troop control do you get. You are strictly designing the dungeon. Yeah.
If you drop those whatever flies that you've picked up in a lair, they'll know, oh, this is the lair that the dungeon keeper wants me to live in, and they'll set up shop there, and it'll be gravy. Like the AI is really good, and it doesn't force you to like do too much annoying micromanagement of the creatures, which is great.
No, and you kind of saw like the one sort of, there's two ways you can kind of interact with the creatures, and one is to take the back of your hand and just slap them, and it causes a little bit of damage to them but gets them moving faster and gets them behaving a little better. And then the other way is to possess them, which I think I'll do pretty soon here. And
you did it before. We missed it, I think.
Okay, I'll do it again, I'm sure. I like to do it with the imps because it speeds things up greatly, but it drops you in a first-person mode. And so when you see that, what's happened is I've possessed the creature and I'm controlling them manually.
How'd you feel about first-person controlling the creatures?
You can tell it's an early third first person concept of design, and that they didn't have a lot of experience to work with yet. I mean, this came out in, when did this come out?
94?
94. So like,
Or 97. This came out in 97.
yeah, it did come, okay, 97. Even so, I mean, there were some good examples of first person out at the time, but it was still pretty new. I mean, Wolfenstein was out, Doom was out, Duke was out by now, I think. And there was a lot of places were starting to use that Doom Duke engine to build things. But
Yeah.
this was a group that had to kind of build their own.
I think it was really admirable to include that.
Mhm.
Like, you can, it's cool to be able to build a dungeon and then walk around in it. It's a solid idea. And like, when you possess a dragon, the way that the dragon looks and moves and behaves in first person view is different than how a
Right.
fly, which is like on paper pretty sweet, but in practice it's just terrible. Like, it's not fun. It's really annoying.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and like with the imp, you can, it's a little foggy, but you can see what you're doing. The dragon, you're trying to see through the smoke of your own stuff, so
Yeah.
you can't see anything. No, it's in combat so rough in the
Yeah.
because you're not meant to control it. You're meant to drop your troops near it and let them do what they do.
Right.
Which is actually unfortunate because it isn't meant to be a key component in the game, and then in other places you almost have to do it to win certain levels or achieve certain things. So it's this bad mechanic that they wanted to show off in a couple places, and it really hampers the game from an otherwise great game.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Like, it's what would you call this, a management game or a strategy game? What would you call it?
Think puzzle. I think because I would have called it, God, I don't know what you'd call it. Because I don't think puzzle is what they were going for.
Right, but that's kind of what it is. That's what it turns into.
And I
Like,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, well, from a strategy perspective, there's not a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can build traps and doors and lock off areas of your dungeon and things like that. But I find that it's generally not really that useful to do that. Like, usually I wind up selling my doors and my traps more than anything, just because you don't know where everyone's coming from. So it's like, building this huge defense doesn't seem worth it.
You had that in notes, and that's the first I'd ever thought of doing that. Like,
selling the doors and traps?
Selling the doors and traps. And that's really a brilliant idea. I was always just like, I'll just slap them down anywhere for aesthetic reasons because...
Right. Yeah, I'd build a long haul, and then I'd just drop doors and traps, and then just sell them all in one big fell swoop.
That's really smart. Next
time
I
I'm a
play...
really smart person. We both laugh.
You are, just the way you say it is pretty good.
I think it is, though. I think you're right that it is a puzzle game more than anything, because there's like something about each level, I think. And once you figure out what that something, that magical something is about each level, that's like the key to beating it. Or like, you can go look at the map and you can see like, oh, there's a big like network of tunnels that's here that you can see where the rock is different.
Right.
And you just like, no, okay, well, that's part of the puzzle.
They're doing something here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a compliment and a condemnation of their ability to skip the tutorial. Each level is crafted to teach you the new instrument they're showing, the new room or the new trap or the new whatever they want to show off. With the notable exception of level 10. It's it really points you in a certain direction, and you end up just naturally following it. And you don't notice until you've played the second or third time that that's what's happening, is you're falling into a pattern. The layout of the dungeon almost isn't your own, but you feel like it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They use the gold deposits as the carrot
Mm-hmm.
to keep you expanding. Like you run out of gold, and so it's a lot of it is just figuring out which gold deposit you need to mine first,
Yeah.
and second and third.
Yeah, because once you've got your room layout set and you've, read the directions to find out how big your room should be for what creature, you kind of don't need to go back to it. So you just build a hub of rooms based on what you can with impenetrable rock and everything like that, and whatever they stick you with for original layout.
Yeah. And it's kind of a shame because there's a lot of potential for like a really solid management game here, because you know you can get really deep down into the life and times of every creature in your dungeon. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it efficient for them to go get food? Is it efficient for them to go home and rest or to train or whatever? But really, most of the time, you really don't have to think about it. But all that depth is in the game, so it seems kind of wasted.
Do you think that's do you think that's due to the era? Like, were the computers just not powerful enough to really capitalize on that, or do you think they just missed it?
I think they just missed it. Like, it all works, and like you can do it. When I played it the second time, I was like, I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this super efficient dungeon, and I'm gonna train my guys, blah blah blah. But you don't have to do that ever.
No.
I mean, you can, and it gives you an advantage, but it doesn't seem like it's, because really what's going to let you win the level is figuring out the way to manage the map,
Yeah.
not the way to manage your creatures.
No. And that was what I got this playthrough, because I remember the first time I played through, I did that super like, okay, I want to make sure the food's here and that this is here and that they're not too close to the library, because it'll affect how much the mages are training. If there's too much noise nearby, can't put the workshop near it.
Yeah, but all that's in the game. Like, it's there. It just doesn't matter. Like, who cares?
You can get around
if the
it.
warlocks are disturbed,
Yeah, you can brute force past it, which is a little too bad. I just noticed this. It just occurred to me. I think it's a really interesting design decision that you cannot build walls.
Yeah, that is true.
You can only dig out. So once you've done that, you've made that area open, and anything can kind of get in there then.
Right. Yeah, you can reinforce walls so that they can't be tunneled into, but yeah, you can't reconstruct anything. It's just destructive.
Which I think goes back to the theme of the game, where it is just they nail the theme even in these little subtle things. Like, you're a destructive force, you're not a constructive force.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just never noticed that, so I got to think about that for a second. But so while I'm dwelling on that little design decision, like we said, it's a solid game. If it's something people wanted to play, you can get it on Good Old Games really cheap. But go get Keeper Effects.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to get Keeper FX. It's a third party or community mod for Dungeon Keeper. You're using it here. I can tell because it looks decent.
Yep.
It doesn't always work right out of the box. It takes some tinkering, but it's definitely worth putting in the 15 to 30 minutes that it's going to take to troubleshoot whatever issue you're going to have.
For me, it was just kind of getting the resolution settings right for my particular monitors and screen and stuff like that. And it took about half an hour, I hate to say, which is more than I feel like it should. But ultimately, when all was said and done, it wasn't that I was we should talk about this. Like, it didn't take as long as it would have taken me to deal with the DOS.config or auto exec files that we used to have to deal with back in the day.
Yeah.
Trying to get my Sound Blaster configured for this particular game as opposed to this particular game where you got to set its IRQ and all that stuff, and you're probably having your DMA channel.
Crazy.
No, and I had a similar concept or similar conversation with somebody at work who was talking about all these old games are so hard to get into because you've got to go into DOSBox and you've got to do this. And I thought about it. I'm like, no, you know what? They're actually easier to run today than they were when they came out.
Oh yeah. Trying to free up memory by loading loading shit into high memory, like my mouse driver. Just it was ridiculous.
Well, so like what was it? 640K was main memory, and then you had another. Maybe it was only 64. I don't remember how much was like the first part. So there was a block of main memory, then there was extended memory, and then there was upper memory. And each one had its own memory manager, and certain games would come with custom memory managers that if you were running a memory manager would interfere and blow the whole thing up. So that I can just open DOSBox and hit go.
Right, and have it work.
It's fantastic. It's much easier to get into these old games today than it was even at the time. So, if you're thinking it's hard, just buckle up and enjoy it because it's still easier than it was.
These levels are all static levels.
Yeah.
There's nothing random in this game. Like we were talking about it being mostly a puzzle game. And I don't know, like I don't think there's enough game here to really, like, if you just gave me a huge dungeon and like turned me loose, and I don't know, I would get bored probably.
They would have to add something else. But I look at games like Dwarf Fortress, which people do enjoy it. There's the possibility for game there, but you'd have to find some other avenue to make it interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe multiple levels to the dungeon, maybe it can go up or down or something like that. But no, it doesn't quite have enough to just, here's a random map, go. So it's a little too bad. I think maybe if the multiplayer had random maps, that might be interesting.
That would be cool. Yeah. One thing I don't like about some of the levels where you're dealing with multiple keepers is that you're constrained by what creatures come through your portal. So there's one level, it might be the infamous level 10, where they get, like, other dude gets bile demons, but you don't.
Yep.
And there's things like that that make it kind of uncool, like, because the thing that's really appealing about games like this is that, or like Civ even, is that everyone kind of starts at the same place and has the same opportunities, and it's just a matter of who does the best job with it.
Maybe your difficulty would cause you to, like, okay, they get a slight advantage or something like that, and you can fine-tune this in. Yeah. But no, that level specifically, for being a god game that you're supposedly in control of so much, you're out of control of so much in this game. In terms of your units, that and that's where it gets back to being a puzzle game. You're just building a dungeon that's going to connect the magic pieces together in such a way that it fits and works.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of rooms that I didn't even use. Like I don't really use the barracks room where you can group creatures together. I never really used that. I didn't use the guard posts very much. I made an effort to do it because I felt like I owed it to the game, to Peter Mullen, who did all the work to like put it in there. But really, they don't do that much. They're not that great.
No,
you're better off just training your dudes.
I remember trying to use them when I played a decade ago now. That was it. Oh my god, it's 2 decades ago now. Oh,
Let's not talk about
let's
that.
not talk about. Let's just move on from
Moving
that
on.
time. Move on. Where I used it, and it's helpful, but it's so hard to get working, to really figure out what unit's following what unit, and
Yeah.
you essentially have to use the possession at that point to get them all to leave the barracks. I lost you. Oh no. Hang on, I'm going to try and get Matt back here. Because we are cursed. It's just that simple. We're not allowed to record this game. Oh, you're back.
Hey, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, good. I was just cursing your name. I hope it's not on the video.
Oh no, that part's not.
That's good because I said some pretty mean things about
There
you
you
when
go.
it froze.
I said some pretty mean things about
You can
me.
take it.
I was like, "What's snap? Why is that not here?" No.
So what happened? Where'd you go?
I just had some sort of issue with only your webpage.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So again, nothing but professional here on this.
What were we talking about when it went down? I mean, I got no video, but we can continue to talk about it.
Oh, you got no video at the moment?
Oh, how useless some of the rooms are.
Yes. Which they are.
Yeah. Even like the rooms, even like the spells, I thought you don't absolutely like need the spells for the most part.
No, you can get by without them. The haste and the heal are kind of handy, and I'm a big fan of lightning bolt, but
Oh yeah, lightning bolt's a good time.
handy. But like you said, handy, not essential.
Right. And the traps, same deal. Don't need them.
Handy, not essential. And I think that can be said for just about everything in this game, which I don't know if that makes it a good thing or a bad thing. Like, because it lets you play your own way.
I think it's a bad thing. Like, I think that it's it's a great game. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm slagging off the game, but I think it's too heavily tilted toward managing the timeline and the level.
Yeah.
And not enough around strategically managing your shit.
Mm-hmm. No, I'll agree with that. It's a great game that's not perfect. It comes really close. A few more tweaks would have really taken it a little bit further. And on that thought, like there's a lot of games that have tried to mimic this design in this game and have never gotten it right. It's often imitated, never repeated.
Yeah. Again, I think the writing and like the design, like the creatures all have a personality, and there's stuff that they like to do, like the flies like to hang around for some reason in the prison. It's interesting, and like the S&M ladies, I forgot, the mistresses,
the dominatrixes, yeah,
like that's
they like
cool.
being in the torture chamber. Yeah,
I like that, and some of the creatures don't like each other, and that's cool. Like that's something that adds some management elements, and that stuff's all great. Like those are great parts of this game,
and I think that's what makes it sort of enjoyable to go back to, even though they're not necessary for playing the game. They're necessary for enjoying the game.
Right. Yep. It's fun.
Yeah. It's fun to just kind of just go, oh, my spider's eating my fly. It's not really going to affect you, but it's...
Right.
Like, okay, I don't get flies because spiders have come in now or whatever.
Everyone dislikes the undead. Did you notice that? I like have a whole undead ghetto in every dungeon I build. Like, oh, she's not like... I built a graveyard. I may as well build a separate lair and a separate training room and everything for these jerks.
Well, the vampires will eat your people.
Right.
Like that. Like when I heard my characters are under attack, I'm like, wait, what? Why? I'm secure. Oh,
Right.
it's my own guys eating my own guys. Fantastic. Good job,
Yeah.
Vampire.
And that's cool. Like, and I like the torture chamber where you can convert or interrogate
Convert
enemy.
yeah, enemies, and then you can drop your own people in to make the other troop types like that work faster.
Yeah.
You know, it's full of those little touches of how to be evil.
Right. Yeah. But again, none of it is necessary.
None of
That's
it's
the big failing. Like, that's the problem with the game. Like,
Mhm.
you don't need to understand those tools. And like, to some degree, I don't like it when a strategy game descends into just like a math equation.
Yeah.
Like, I think Civ tends to sometimes.
It can.
Yeah, I like that there's some feel to it, but I'd like it to be
A little more weight when you choose to do it. It should.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should get rewarded for engaging.
Hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. You should get rewarded for taking the time to dig in and play sort of in the world where it doesn't matter. It's nice that you are. It's fun for you, but
Right.
you're not going to lose the game for not. We should probably. Let me see if I can find it here. We pull up level 10.
Yeah, level 10 is kind of like a watershed moment in the game, I think,
Mhm.
because it seems like they're gradually acclimating you to the rules and the structure of the game, and then level 10 comes and it's like impossible to beat except for what you're going to do.
Well, yeah, I'm going to show us. I'm going to give a little bit of just a feel for 10 without me pulling the cheat.
Yeah, why don't you just kind of narrate what's going on here?
So, in the entire Dungeon Keeper so far, we've talked about it's tunneling. You can't build walls. You're sort of hollowing out areas to build your rooms. In this one, you're dumped on a large flat island in a lake of lava. So there's no real room building. Now, your opponent's dumped on the same thing on the other side, but he's going to get troops faster for some reason.
Yeah.
So I'm telling my imp there to go grab, and there's a case of the good AI. Like, he was out claiming land. I dropped him next to a room, and he immediately knew the room has priority over gaining the rest of the land. So he's going to get me that entrance. And then on the far right side, which I don't think you can see, there's what's called a scavenger room where you're supposed to drop your troops in to sort of bring his troops over to your side. It just doesn't work well enough to be efficient. And so
Yeah.
that's what this level's supposed to be pointing you towards and teaching you to do. This is the introduction of that room, but the room itself fails.
Right. And I don't know if that's a bug or what, but I have never successfully scavenged anything. And I'm not sure that I've had my guys scavenged.
I've had both, but it takes a long time, and again, like, it's not worth whatever else you could be doing with that unit. You could drop them in the training, you could drop them in research, you could drop them in building, you could just stick him in a doorway guarding. He'd be more useful than trying to get the scavenger room working. So
you're kind of wholesale claiming land here.
yeah,
Basically.
yep. And I'm gonna just dump a little room here next to that because there's nowhere else to put it. There's nothing else to do guarding for it or anything else. So, and here I'm going to put a treasure room right next to the entrance, just because, okay, it doesn't matter in this level. There's nothing in terms of efficiency or anything you can really lay down.
It's like a race, but it's a race you can never win.
Not really. Not without luck. Basically, something has to go lucky for you, and I don't know what that luck is. So there I've gotten, like, and there's dragons circling the moat around your island that are neutral. So if the first person to run into them captures those dragons and makes them theirs, which ultimately is how I end up finishing this level, and I'll show that in a second too. But this is kind of all you do on this island, is try to dig up the gold around the edge, and it's a finite amount. There's some things over on the shores off the edge of the islands, but not enough to really turn the tide of the game.
The computer's very aggressive in this level too. Like he as soon as he can, he comes over and, you know, messes up your Christmas. It's rough. Like, I tried it over and over and over again and couldn't do it, and until I beat it essentially the same way you're going to beat it, with some minor differences. But
yeah, this is the level where I stopped having fun, which is too bad, because the levels after this go immediately back to the old style of gameplay.
Yeah.
But I think I got another 4 levels and then gave up. Now, I beat it back in the day because I was going to. That's just sort of what I did back then. But now I'm like, I got too much else to do, and I'm no longer having fun. And I can definitely pinpoint this level is why I'm no longer having fun.
Yeah, it's upsetting to have. It's not that it changed the rules of the game, but it
was a different puzzle.
Did. Yeah.
Like everything worked exactly the same, but you were expected to think about it in a way that didn't fit the theme. We've been going over and over about how well this game did on theme, how well this game did on theme, how well this game did on theme. And this level, it doesn't. And it does it in such a catastrophically bad way that it actually detracts from all the rest of the game.
Yeah, there's some other, some other maps that are well designed and interesting after this, and like I'm glad I continued playing it, but at this point it's just kind of like takes you out of the game.
It knocks you out of the moment. It reminds you you're just playing a game, and anytime you lose that level of immersion, anytime you're reminded you're just clicking a piece of plastic to make lights twitch, you don't want to. You've ruined the game at that point, and that's too bad. So if
I also think this is the level where I like understood, like, okay, what this game is about. Like, every game is about something. There's some underlying, like at the end of the day, what I'm doing here is blah. And in this game, it made me realize that at the end of the day, what I was doing was trying to figure out what the design of the level was trying to like force me to do to beat the levels. And it wasn't about strategy, and it wasn't about crafting a super efficient, well-managed dungeon. It was just about like figuring out the little trick for this level.
This was the point you realized, this has nothing to do with me. I'm trying to outthink the developer.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else to say other than, that's too bad. So I'm going to pull up how we eventually beat it here, because
like that was an admirable showing on that level. Like you were doing fine. You weren't doing. At no point was I like, oh, what the hell is?
Why were you doing that? Yeah. I needed all those rooms.
It's just like a free for all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is how you beat the level. So it's the same deal. You start surrounded by these walls, but as soon as you break through them, it's
And so what happened here is I was slapping the imps because I'm like, okay, I want these guys to get moving fast because I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to lay down as many rooms as I can, as fast as I can. Let's dig out this gold, yada, yada, yada. And in just a moment here, I'm going to get a dragon. And there it is. Just got a dragon. And I have this thought, like, hey, wait a minute. Screw this noise. I'm going to just possess the dragon and walk my ass over there right now and see what happens.
And this is the first person stuff we talked about. Like, this is pretty rough.
This is, well, and you're looking at it through the dragon's smoke. It would be kind of interesting if you weren't, like, didn't have jelly rubbed all over your eyes. It would be kind of fun to walk around, and that you just truck so slowly, just sort of chunk, chunk,
Right.
chunk, chunk, chunk.
It's worth noting, like one of the special things about dragons is that they can walk on lava. Like when I beat this level, I found on the previous level I found a thing that lets me carry over a creature. So that's what I did, but I had to build all kinds of infrastructure to get over there. But at the end of the day, this is the same thing I did, like just snuck over there and
just pounded them,
unloaded.
Yep.
Yeah. So now you're in his kitchen.
Yep. Coming up on him. And again, he does have the same problems. That is one of the things, like, yeah, he's got a ton of imps already and he's already bringing stuff back, so he got some advantage. But, I mean, he's still on a big
But he gets
flat.
bile demons on this level.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has. So that's unfair. But you're right. Like, it is cool that he's starting in the same
sort of
situation you are.
Now, that's not always the case.
You're doing it.
Yep. And there's some, I don't think we've ever mentioned this, but yeah, the core of the game to keep from dying is this dungeon heart room. You just have to keep the enemy out of it. As long as the enemy's out of it, you are alive. You are functioning, and you can kind of recover or do something to try and get back into it. With notable exceptions. Like, you had a level, you said, where the enemy walled themselves in with untunnelable walls, and that's it. Level over. No strategy, no building rooms, no anything else.
And the thing is that you could have spent your entire adult life trying to, like, build that awesome, efficient dungeon to beat that guy, and you never would have done it. I firmly believe that you'd never build, like, that perfect dungeon. And that sucks. Like, yeah. I would like to be able to beat that level some other way. But it's not kind to you as the user, and maybe that's cool, because it would never, like, give you any hint that you should just bum rush him.
No, it definitely was something that didn't hold your hand. It expected you to kind of wander, and figure it out. Poke your way around, figure out the game world, and go from there. And that, like you said, that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's no longer sort of acceptable game design.
Yeah, that level I kept getting stuck at. I kind of, like, turtled in my dungeon for a while, and there's a point where there's a keeper and he, like, reinforces his walls and you just can't get through.
Yeah,
and you don't know that.
You don't know you're done.
That you're bumping up against, like, a reinforced wall, but like, of course, in retrospect, it's like, oh yeah, he's holed up now, but so I would just, like, wait until my resources ran out, and it took a long time. Like, maybe I'm a dumb person and just, like, waited too long, but there's nothing, like, that pops up and says you can't beat this anymore.
No, and that was a problem with some of the old games where you were able to trap yourself and nobody stopped you from playing. No one said, okay, you just made a mistake, or even 5 minutes ago you made a mistake, and no way to undo the mistake, and let you just keep going. And I don't know, in games where you're going for score, that's kind of okay, because you're the goal is you're going to try and do better each time, and the concept of a score is you're going to do, what I mean, you're going to play that again to do a better job.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of something like Zork, where you can, in Zork, not get all the points and still finish the game, and then you're like, okay, I must have missed some stuff, and that's some of the fun of Zork. But in this game, where you're stopped, there's nothing else you can do until you finish the level.
Right.
That's not okay. And to waste sometimes an hour of my time when I'm not going to be able to progress, that's not okay.
And I want to say, like, I don't remember 100%, but I want to say that the implication, like that little text at the bottom of the screen there, where it says the other two keepers in this region, blah, 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 it implied that I should turtle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I did it, but maybe that's not true. But I want to say I'm trying to find a reason why I did that. But the point stands that
Yeah, you needed to be briefed that okay, you missed your opportunity. You're not going to win now, or some way to lure him out of his dungeon. Like that would have been an interesting mechanic.
Or even if they said like, go kill this asshole before he reinforces his walls, and you just like have to sit for an hour thinking about the shitty choices in your life that you've made, which is what I was doing.
Yeah,
the whole time. Like, I'm doing this stupid video thing with Chris. I don't want to play this game anymore. You know?
Yeah,
it
like
sucks.
I'm done.
Yep.
That's kind of how I got with 10. After 10, I'm like, I'm done. And that's why I've said the rule for us is when it stops being fun, stop playing.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no obligation for us to finish the game. The moment the game is no longer interesting or fun, we're out. So there will probably come a day sometime where we're like, okay, we told you next month our game was going to be this, and we both agreed halfway through we were done with it. We switched gears on you, sorry, because that game is horrible. I don't know what that game will be, because we've got a list of solid games that go far beyond what I think we're going to end up recording. But
yeah, the thing I like about this game is that when it's going well, it feels pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Like to be sitting on a bunch of money and I like that. Like it feels good when it's going well.
And that's where I'm trying to sort of steer this whole episode back to, because we started out praising this game. And as we talk about it more and more and more, we just start ripping on it harder and harder and harder. I will still play it. You have still installed it multiple times in history to go back and play it again and again. Yep. And I will eventually go back. Especially now that I've sort of figured out 10. How I did 10 the first time, like years ago, is I did build the whole dungeon, and then I would take a dragon and go poke his troops and then walk backwards, breathing fire, and just take out his whole army. So that's how I originally did it way back in the day, which a similar concept, but still a horrible game design.
Yep. Maybe we just suck at it, and like we can only figure out one way to beat these levels. Like maybe there's 100 different ways that we just are like terrible.
Yeah,
that could be true.
Yeah, basically, if you're playing this game and you get to level 10, give it a shot on your own, see what you come up with, then go look online. Usually, I'm one of those who's like, don't look it up, figure it out yourself. It's okay. It's okay in this one. Because it takes so long to finish a level that if you're not having fun with that level, you might have fun with the next one. Go ahead, skip it, jump to the next one. And I think with the Good Old Games version, like we're talking about the main campaign, the original in the box campaign, but they have a bunch of other maps and campaigns and other things to play through and work with that you can play this game a long time. If you enjoy the general conceit, you're going to really get your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, there's a ton of content available for it. And it is fun. Like it's enjoyable to play. I don't want to I don't want to dog it too much because it's a great game. Like it's fun, and it's I played it when it came out and I still play it.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
No, it's great, and that should be the takeaway. It's a great game. It's got some flaws. It holds up amazing for its age. We're not going to talk about how old, but it's old.
Right.
And still so solid.
The AI, I keep talking about the AI in this game because it's so impressive to me. To be able to pick up an imp and just drop him, and he does 9 times out of 10, he does what I wanted him to do when I dropped him.
Yeah.
It's not really probably wasn't complicated to code, but it's very elegant in the game.
That's exactly it. And you very rarely see such nice, elegant just, I don't want to say interface because that's not the right word, but just the way it works the way you expect, and you don't have to. The only time I've ever had problems is when I've been like dropping them in the middle of somewhere to either reclaim tiles or something, and there's a ton of bodies, and then they prioritize the bodies.
Right.
So I think,
holy cow,
yes.
It's Ragnarok.
Yeah. Trying to remember what level this is. I think this is the last level I played, and this is sort of where I got to the point where they were dropping shit like that on me, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
The month's almost up, and I'm looking forward to the next game, and I'm done. I'm good. I enjoyed my dungeon.
Frustrating to manage those large battles because you have to pick up the right creatures. I struggled with that a little bit, like getting the right creatures to the battle in time.
Well, and I know what my problem here is. My problem is not even that. It's if you play aggressively, if you push. If I would have pushed faster, I'd have done a lot better. I like to take the time in the dungeon. I'm with you in terms of the main conceit of this game is supposed to be building rooms and building out the dungeon. So when they take that away from me and force me to push more than build rooms, you've missed the point of the game, and you're taking me out of the game, and I'm not having a good time. And
yeah,
because the reason I'm here is to build rooms, and so
yeah,
but other than that, check our notes one more time for anything we might have.
Yeah, I think we covered the main points we wanted to make about playing Dungeon Keeper.
Yeah. Let me make sure I didn't screw anything up there. Yeah, nothing else I'm really seeing. So next month, we're both excited about this, I think. Questron.
Questron, classic.
Yes.
SSI, Apple. I'm playing it on the Apple emulator.
You're playing on the Apple. I'm playing it on Commodore. Because it was the first game I saw for the Commodore 64.
Oh wow!
So it has that sort of special moment for me when, up till that point, I'd really only seen like Atari games.
Yeah.
And I'd seen some stuff on the Texas Instruments, which we might have to do Tunnels of Doom someday, but you'll never quite understand what it's like to have. The game had a cartridge and a cassette, so we would put it in and start it loading, and then we'd go outside to play and come back in, and then it'd be loaded. We could play. So
wow.
Questron was.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I know, right? Questron was a moment for me where, like, suddenly the world opened up, and games were so much more than just these little toys. And
yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to playing through it again. Have you ever beaten it?
I beat it when I was a child.
Nice.
The first time I played it.
Nice.
But replaying it, man, it's like getting punched right in the nostalgia.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, it's great.
No, I'm very happy. I'm looking forward to. Well, we will talk about Questron during Questron. That's just how excited we are about it. All right.
In a month.
In a month. All right. Thanks for recording. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll talk to y'all next time.